is up, people? Welcome back to the last episode of 2017 of the Slip and Dip podcast. I am Matthew Wells. Alongside me, as always, across the room, Mr. Kendrick Johnson. Holding it down over there, man. For the last episode of the year, episode number 35. It's going to be a fun one on the heels of UFC 219. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, that card we will hit up. The year in review of all the UFC and boxing in 2017. And to help us break it all down, we will have on the show today Mr. Stephen Wright, multiple-time guest on this year, and live on the air right now. Hey, Junkie holding down in Las Vegas. First, Kendrick, before we bring Dan in. Kendrick, how you feeling, man? Last episode of the year.
And we're making progress, man. 35 episodes. Look at this, like the guests we've had on here, man. We've had former world champions, future Hall of Famers, Faber, Regis Johnson, heavyweight in the boxing game. We got Deontay Wilder. We're working on Earl Spence, so I'm going to try to get him on.
Yeah. A lot of big names we've had, man. A lot of big names. It's
like Cardinal last night.
Yeah. We had what four fighters from last night. On the last
two rules of the show: if you ball, you get the call. If we call, there's a pattern that's starting to trend. When you don't pick up, people take L's. I know you notice behind the scenes. It's kind of crazy.
I don't want to put a curse on fighters.
I ain't putting a curse on people. I'm just saying the stats. Yeah. The stats are not looking good on that way.
Yeah, it is. It's been a hell of a year. So let's bring in our man Dan Tom over there in Las Vegas, holding it down. And let's get his thoughts on this year that was 2017. Dan, how's it going, man?
Good, man. First off, I just want to say thank you for having me on your guys, on your guys' end of the year show. And for listeners who may have not been listening to you guys since the start, you guys have really attacked heavy from the beginning. You're not just trying to pad what you're saying about guests. In fact, let me just share some of my personal favorite Slip and Dip podcast episodes. I really enjoyed your interview with Kevin Lee, where he went down the top 10 and how he could beat all the different guys. That was an awesome interview all around, and that was an awesome part of it, of course. And of course, you just mentioned, Stephen the War Master Wright. I've always been a fan of him as an analyst and looking at corners. He's a guy that's always impressed me. So hearing him just go long form with you guys on multiple shows now is really something special. So if anybody's going to look back at past episodes or make sure you can't miss, again, they're all good. I don't want to take away from any of the others, but those are my favorites for what it's worth. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, man, and of course Dan as well. Your podcast, the Protecting That podcast, is awesome. I listen to it every single week. It's incredible breakdowns. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure you know Dan's work. But if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice. So check his workout on MMA Junkie, and definitely check out his podcast with his awesome breakdowns.
Dan, I know we're going to keep it to the award show, but you saw the fight that Neil Magny fought last night.
Yes, sir.
Why do more people not do that? It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't nothing big about it. But he got that hand raised on to the next one. He did what he had to do. He came in with a game plan. He did what he had to do. He didn't care what nobody said. It's like, why don't more fighters take that page and get that W? Because you're going to get paid sooner or later if you get Ws. I don't need you to see you be like Mike Perry, get 3 knockouts in a row, and then lose to some nobody dude, or you get stuffed out, and it's like, I'm back to the drawing board. I like winners. That's just me.
That's a really good question, Kendrick, because it sounds really obvious, and it is, right? It is obvious. Like, why don't more people fight smart, especially, with the growth and the rapid speed of the growth and all the other departments of the game, from technical moves and everything and so on and so forth. So why aren't guys fighting smarter, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but I think people have a hard time, kind of comprehending a point fighting style, and they characterize it as negative, and that's not negative to have a point fighting style. And so, yeah, I am surprised I don't see more people do it. Neil is an intelligent cat. I don't know him too personally, but just from interviews, he seems like a real intelligent guy. And I often find that the intelligent guys, again, obvious statement here, the intelligent guys are usually going to fight more smarter, but like everything, there's no biological free lunch in life. All streets are two ways in MMA, and if you're smart at thinking, sometimes you can think too much. And we've seen Magny have those really questionable performances where you're like, what happened to this guy? Why didn't he show up? And so, I mean, there's a lot of theories there, but that's a great question.
Yeah, I think Neil, Neil did what he had to do against a guy coming off a long layoff. Play it safe. Not necessarily, that he wasn't trying to, look for finish, but he executed a game plan, got it done. I wish more guys would do that because it would help their stock rise. But at the same time, some guys feel that they had that responsibility to go out there and get the people talking about them on Twitter. And I mean, at the end of the day, that does also increase your paychecks as well. But first priority should be to get your hand raised, not just go out there and be wild and crazy. And we've seen that cost people not only a lot this year, but just in the past in general. It's that fine balance. Find some guys are like, okay, I want the dub. Some guys I want to be entertaining, and then some guys are right there in the middle. Usually, those guys that are right there in the middle are the guys that end up wearing a title at the end. At some point in their career. So, it's kind of hard to find that balance for some people.
100%. Let me just add that, and again, Magny might not be a guy that ever fights for a title, but as somebody who likes to give credit to things that aren't given enough credit to, how about guys like Magny? We complain that there's a lack of middle class in today's MMA, and it's just a crazy sport to make a living in the first place. And for a guy like that to just be able to grow and learn his craft to now where, like Kendrick said, he's fighting smart, and to do all this under the, one of the deepest divisions at the top level. I mean, that's really impressive. I don't think those guys get enough credit for that. That's really hard to do.
It really is, man. So I want to pick your brain real quick about the main event last night between Holly Holm and Cyborg. I said right before, like, man, I'm really kind of disappointed that it wasn't promoted as it was, because this really was the best women's fight you could put together in MMA at this point in 2017. Like, there's no better women's fight you can put together, I don't think. And it played out pretty competitive for the most part.
The way I told him, he didn't want to listen to me. I was one of the few people. I think I told you in our conversation I thought I was going to go to distance. Nobody believed me.
I mean, it ended up being a real technical battle, back and forth. Cyborg bringing the power. Holly trying to stick and move, but she wasn't sticking hard enough when she did stick. So, fortunately, we saw the scorecards go in Cyborg's favor. I saw a lot of people. I do want to ask you, this is my first question, Dan, I guess, is how did you score it? And did you believe Holly won any rounds?
I scored it 49-46. Cyborg, I believe I gave the second round to Holm. I believe the first round I saw scores, yours included, for Holm, kind of on both sides. And I could see why. And if you want, I can explain why I guess I would score that for Holm, because I think a lot of it, it's the similar arguments that were being had in the Duran Durandamy fight, because it's a similar style dynamic, right?
Right.
And they fought in similar kind of ways. So that's how I scored it. I did see, the judges do 48-47, so I didn't see the cards, but I'm assuming they gave Holly the first two rounds, and those seem to be the two rounds in contention here. That's my overall take.
The scorecard read, it was the two judges that scored at 48-47 gave Holly the first and second round. The one judge that scored at 49 gave Holly the second round. So I went back and watched the first two rounds earlier this morning, and initially I scored the first two rounds for Holly. Upon second watch, I lean more in the first round towards Cyborg, but for people online are saying it's absolutely crazy that Holly was given even any round. Like, no, it wasn't that serious. Like, those rounds were close. I lean the first round towards Cyborg now. Second round, I'm still very comfortable with scoring that for Holly. But all the rest, third, fourth, and fifth, were clearly Cyborg. So at the end of the day, we all agree Cyborg won the fight.
Yeah, 100%. And if I could speak more on that, and I'm going to be real interested to hear my man Steven right there, what he had to say, as far as his take, obviously being the expert. But for what it's worth, my take was I tend to judge rounds oddly and get a lot of crap for it. And a lot of times I'm way off, admittedly. It just shows why sometimes you shouldn't be judging when, you're just watching fights as a fan and so forth. It's true, and when, it's a very tough job to do. But I also kind of judge from the fighter perspective. So, again, even though I'm not an experienced fighter like these guys in the ring, I've also been throwing punches and kicks since 1992. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird balance there, right? I've never made it to a pro level, but I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be hurt. I know what it's like to fake like it's being hurt. And I also have an experience, not as much an experience as I like, but I also have an experience seeing what a hurt opponent is like and what a shielded hurt opponent's like when you get them to the body and they're trying to hide it. So I often will see these things and I'll weigh them much heavier in my head. And I understand that not everybody's going to pick those up, including the judges to fans alike. So my scoring might be a little bit different. But that being said, I'm a real fan of significant strikes and who's being overall effective. And stats can be very misleading, Marquardt versus Belfort or Verdun versus Overeem are recent examples where a guy that landed only 5 significant strikes to another guy's 20 won the round. How can that be? And the stats can be deceiving, right? When you really go back and watch, you're like, okay, well, that was a lot of fluff. But when the shots were actually connecting, it was Cyborg who was punctuating. And that was kind of my read on the fight going in, was that Cyborg was going to pressure and punctuate off of Holly's counters. And people said, that's crazy. You think Cyborg's going to counter because people thought that Cyborg was a brawler. And B, rounding back to your point and kind of defending your score, Matt, people also gave me crap for my supplemental info. I put consistent round winner. And I it's kind of a hard thing to explain. It can be open to interpretation. So I'm okay with people, not interpreting it well. But what I mean by it is that she has a style that consistently wins rounds. And not saying that as a negative, again, back to the point fighting. But she knows when to turn the pressure and she knows how to influence a round. So not only is she influencing you, Matt, she's influencing a lot of other people online, including the actual professional judges. So completely defensible long answer, completely defensible for you to have that scorecard.
Yeah, and I think one thing that some people were missing in those early rounds is that, when she was darting in with those quick combos, like 2 and 3 punch combos, Cyborg was hitting her with that counter right, but a couple of times that counter right didn't land flush, even though Holly kind of dipped out looking like, she got hurt. Like, they showed a couple of those replays where some of those counter rights barely missed or they kind of grazed her, so it wasn't like it was rocking Holly. I think a lot of people were seeing those as punches that landed flush every time, which that wasn't the case. So, I'm not. At the end of the day, it wasn't like me scoring the first 2 rounds or people out there scoring the first 2 rounds changed the outcome of the fight. Everybody was in agreement. Cyborg won. So
100%.
I'm not gonna argue all day about those first 2 rounds. At the end of the day,
right?
No, I'm not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it didn't change the winner of the fight. So
100%.
I guess the other big takeaway for me last night. Abe is just an absolute monster, really dominating people. Bell to whistle. I want to ask you, what do you think is the one way a fighter can avoid what does in there?
I think they have to have something of the Michael Johnson prototype because, again, I actually officially picked Michael Johnson.
Said that last night.
Yeah, I mean,
me and Dan, we know fights.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need. I'm sure Kendrick, especially from boxing, you can see holes all day for the counter for Khabib.
Exactly.
And credit to Khabib, he did look improved, but there's still places to counter there. But you got to have the fast feet, which Barbosa does have to his credit, like Michael Johnson has. But Michael Johnson also kind of has more of a wrestling and athletic base. Where he's shown to be able to wrestle and counter wrestle with a lot of the best of them. I actually picked Johnson as like a plus 350 dog to beat Barbosa back in the day. So I've always kind of been high on his ability to both pressure and counter, but you need that kind of that prototype. And even though I was wrong on the pick, Khabib obviously mauled them. But we saw in the first round, I wasn't crazy for seeing the counters, just like you weren't. So, but yeah, that's my answer. That's my answer. You're gonna need that kind of a guy.
I think that's why I think Tony is the guy to beat him because, say for instance, he does what he did to Barbosa in second and third round to Tony. Tony can make that adjustment, a la Kevin Lee fight. Prime example, Kevin was putting in work first 7 minutes of the fight, but as you know, it's a 25-minute fight. I can see Tony doing that, and we see Khabib get stunned. So we'll see him on his back because he's the one always on top. We ain't seen him on his back. I see something we ain't seen before.
I agree, and touching on that, and not stepping on any type of bold prediction type categories, but I think because of Kevin Lee's early success he had against Ferguson and Khabib's improvements and dominance he showed tonight, I would not be surprised to see the interim champ Ferguson open as an underdog, which I think he was anyways the first time they matched up. And again, that my breakdown was released because the fight got scrapped last minute, so my hand has already been tipped. But I would pick I would pick Ferguson, and I'm probably going to pick him in the rematch for that reason because not only can he counter, but he can counter real close in the pocket. He can roll, and Kendrick, you could spot this from boxing where a lot of people are like, oh, Tony takes a lot of damage. I'm like, he's expecting these punches coming. He's rolling with it and come back. He's putting you where he wants you. He needs you to commit first. He's giving you something to bait you in. And as far as the takedowns go, here's what's going to counter the takedowns. We talked about the counters, right? Well, you still need an answer for the grappling. Now, not just a guy with a wrestling base like Johnson, but the reason why I'm high on Ferguson is because he's not only a submission guy, well-rounded, unorthodox, all whatever words you want to throw at it. More specifically, he makes his money off of the front headlock. And the front headlock is something Khabib gives every time. And he can give it to most guys in the world, but Ferguson is not like most guys in the world with his long arms and submission acumen. Just like John Jones, those longer guys can do different stuff, especially when you give him the tools. Ferguson is accrued the tools, and this is going to be a dangerous fight anytime Khabib wants to grapple him. That's my early take on that.
Yeah, I think a
major. I also want that to happen, Dan. I want to be in Vegas. And I got $300 set aside to cash that check.
All right, we'll go party afterwards, man.
Right. Yeah, I think a major aspect of that fight when it does happen, hopefully it does happen by at least, March, April. Hopefully we at least have some sort of indication of what's going to happen there. I think, the way Tony Ferguson, rolls out of takedown attempts, that kind of thing is going to be huge in that fight. So there's just a lot of unorthodox and funky things that he does that Khabib hasn't seen yet. Whereas mostly it's guys are like, oh shit, he's got my legs. It's like, how do I get out? How do I get out? Whereas Tony, I think, would be like, oh, you got my legs? All right, cool. Here, deal with this. So. Yeah,
and if he is lucky enough to secure position, then you're gonna see something Tony's always been doing, and is a trend now in MMA again. Guard elbows from your guard, elbows from your back. Making them pay. Like, oh, this isn't a safe spot to rest, son. Yeah. So it'd be an interesting fight, man, all the way around.
I love it. Like, I tweeted out, during the middle of the fight, I was like, if this continues as it is, man, I'm going to be increasingly more pissed off that fight didn't happen at 209.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. Incredible performance for Khabib. Hopefully we get some answers to 155 and how that division plays out. But let's transition, man, into, I guess, being the end of the year show. Let's look back on what was 2017, and let's break down, I guess, a couple of key categories here. Looking back for the UFC, they had 45 events in 2017, including those 7 Contender Series events. 19 title fights, 2 fights. I pulled stats here. So let's do this, Dan. I want to know, what was your favorite fight in the UFC of 2017?
Dude, this was the hardest one for me to decide of the categories you gave me to cover, and I wanted to avoid. So I tried to avoid the recent. Well, I did avoid the recency bias of recent fights, which I won't touch in case they're on your guys' list. But I went with one. Perhaps it's unpopular, but I'll tell you why. And I went with Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero during the summer.
How was that?
And yeah, okay, all right. Well, you can maybe second some things that I touch on here. Is that I'm a big guy when it comes to narrative, right? A narrative, the story is something that I feel maybe we don't have enough of, and we're going to need more of in the coming years with the sport. And narratives inside a fight is really rare because a lot of times, which I'm almost afraid to cite another fight that might be on your guys' list, a lot of times the narrative will be a quick as in within one round or a story of 2 rounds, right? But we often don't give credit to enough decisions. Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler of a previous year was on a lot of lists, and it was a decision, but rightfully so because there were back and forth swings in the fight, and not only was there a lot of narrative heading in for the middleweight, title or interim title, and we weren't excited about interim titles, but everybody was excited for this one because we knew these were 2 of the baddest dudes in any weight class, and at the top of that class for sure. So we were treating it like the main event or like the main deal. And it did become the main event because the main event pulled out. There was drama. And sure enough, Robert Whittaker is hurt, has a hurt knee, and he's having to deal with that round to round. And we're watching the story unfold. We're listening to what his corner's saying. Meanwhile, Bisping is taunting, ripping flags up in the other corner. It's madness. It's fucking madness. And on one leg, this guy that just wasn't given a shot when he moved up to middleweight, and then he was given the most hardest road, fighting the guys that nobody wanted to fight, like Souza and so forth. And to see him win was just amazing. Sorry, long-winded, but that's my answer.
Hell of a pick, man. That's one that didn't initially get on my radar. It's one I looked at. I was like, man, that was a cool moment. You know, it spawned that moment of even Yoel going and making that music video type thing or whatever it was out there.
Oh, God,
You know,
great.
yeah, it was amazing.
Then mine's just because it sums up what's good and bad about USC to me was the Gaethje. What's his name? 'Cause I watched it. It was in the same weekend, so I saw all three. Gaethje and what's his name? The Menace.
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson.
Amazing.
How you gonna make a fight that you winning and you supposed to win difficult and get stuffed the fuck out in the second round for no reason because of your ego? But then it was entertaining as hell. It's like this dude here was knocked out. This dude in Gaethje, he gets hot in the face and wakes up. That was just straight craziness. So to me, it's like what is good and bad about MMA altogether with the entertainment, people getting knocked out and getting woke up by a physical punch, and then people fighting stupid to entertain fans, and then we see them backstage don't know what the hell they are. Them same fans that cheering don't care about you no more, and you just got paid maybe six figures on a good day.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
So that's like that kind of encompasses all the things, the political, the in the ring, and everything. But that was just a crazy fight. And then, like, to me, at the same time, it also shows why this sport is so great because, like, people want to see Gaethje fight, but us as journalists and professionals know he had holes in his game, and Alvarez stuffed up them holes. Well, I've never seen somebody said, I want to be my equal to the guy that's going to be not the one that knocked me out. Not like, oh, if somebody catch me, they just mind or whatever. No, he basically said he was going to get knocked out, and he was really looking forward to it. I ain't never heard nobody say no shit like that after winning a fight. That was crazy to me.
I love that moment because he was referencing a line from the movie 300. And one of my most, what means more to me than being right about the pick is moments like that, because in the breakdown I write like, Gaethje works behind the shell guard, the double forearm guard, like a Spartan, in a phalanx, referencing 300, and then just hearing him reference that movie was like, oh, and then saying Connor throws his cross like a 1930s baseball pitcher, throwing a baseball, and then for Connor in that same breakdown against Eddie Alvarez, put his hands behind the back like hiding which pitch he's gonna throw, like that meant, and I was wrong on that fight, by the way, like, but it didn't matter, like that meant a lot to me, like just I'm like, oh shit, okay, these guys, maybe there's a similar wave I'm tapping into, but it's a beautiful to see these guys work, man. That was great picks.
Yeah, for me, I like both of those fights a lot for a lot of the same reasons you guys said. For me, the fight of the year is 2017 was John Jones and Daniel Cormier too. For a lot of the reasons that you said, Dan, for the whole story, like heading like the saga of John Jones and Daniel Cormier is like it's gonna run forever, until they're both out of the sport, and however many years that's gonna be. There will always be the connotation with those two names. When you think of John Jones, you're gonna think of Daniel Cormier. Cormier, you're gonna think of John Jones. The guy that's had his number. So to see that fight play out the way it did, with Cormier having so much success early on and having the swagger, I'm talking about taunting John Jones in there. I'm talking, he was in there, hands down, slipping John Jones's punches and then just being right in his face until
the kick from around the world.
Until that head kick landed, that same kick that John Jones predicted way back when on the stage with Connor did before the Poirier and McGregor fight, and they were all on the stage together, called that shot way back then, and then lands it. It's just like so many things came together, and then you got this overly emotional Daniel Cormier after the fact. Then, I wanted to ask at the post-fight presser of like, what happens when John Jones tests positive? And of course, I don't ask that because that's somewhat unprofessional. And then John Jones tests positive, and it's just this whole storm, this whole madness, and everything surrounding it. Like that was the fight for me.
Were you there, Dan?
I was not there, but I love this pick, man, because and this is something else about this fight, which tell me what you guys think. Like, we all love, to a certain extent, bad blood matches, and we, of course, all have opinions on them, right? Whether it's taking a side or what have you. But both John Jones and Daniel Cormier's fan bases are so passionate and usually so opposite of each other that it just kind of completed the circle that Matt was talking about as far as the buildup and emotional investment. And even me as a John Jones critic, try to be really fair about it. But yeah, man, I've been open about criticizing his choices and not being 100% bored or sold when he said things before and kind of skeptical. The end of that fight was so amazing. He was just the classiest, the best version of John Jones we've ever seen. He won me over. I was like, all right, I'm back on the train. I'm back in. And then the test comes up. So, but yeah, no, great pick, man. That's awesome.
Here's a little side story. It was meant for me not to be there that week. My boy and them, they all got robbed, so
Yes, oh my
I
God.
probably would have been up in that mix. And then on fight night, I got like extremely sick. Like I was threw up like 3 or 4 times and slept until like the start of the pay-per-view. I was at my house though, so imagine all that happening in California. It was like that was a sign it was meant for my black ass not to be at that particular fight.
I think I remember you saying that maybe on the show recapping it. But yeah, that sounds familiar now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was meant for me not to be there.
I wish I wasn't there now. I mean, considering all my equipment got stolen, which is still hurting me to this day.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, Jesus, yeah.
My bad. What y'all open my head?
No, I mean,
I'll just reflect.
yeah.
Weird juju around that card, man. Weird juju.
Right. For the people that I'll recap it real quick. So, me, Danny Austin, Jose Youngs, and Jim Edwards, we're all obviously out there covering this event, and we decide after that fight press conference that they had at the theater out there, we're like, all right, let's go do something, exercise like for once during a fight week instead of just drinking beer and writing articles and editing videos. So we're like, all right, so we go to Runyon Canyon and we go out there, we run, like we change right there in the car, boom, head up, run the canyon, come back down, boom, all our shit stolen. We're like, okay, this was not a good way to start this week. So welcome to LA. My first time in LA, I get all my shit took. So that was not cool. But the fights that played out that week were amazing. Anyways, that's a quick version of that story.
Jesus.
So let's
good deeds are always rewarded, Matt. Good deeds are always rewarded.
And no, it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Max Holloway. Shut out. So I want to transition from the favorite fight to the favorite overall moment of the year in 2017. Dan, what was the one moment that stuck with you the most past year?
I went with the one that jumped out to me first when I read it, when I read what you sent, and so I'm going to stick to that one, and that was Rose Namajunas' win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I guess kind of a part A, part B. I mean, the win itself was just shocking. Her dropping Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which even if you pick Rose, I don't know if anybody was thinking that. And then just the post fight afterwards, and again, I'm a more traditional martial arts guy. I really love that martial arts kind of attitude. And in a year where it's the year of the trash talk, it was really nice to see someone use their platform where they can she could deserve to be as trash talk as she want after what she just did. And nope, she used it to be positive, and I appreciate that. So Rose Namajunas gets it from me.
Well, I'm going to tag on to that because that is a great pick. I agree. It's definitely one that got my attention. But for me, it's actually something that surrounds that exact same moment. Not the fight itself, as awesome as it was. For me, one of the things that stuck out this year was the call of that by Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan, and John Anik. The call of that moment, the call of that closing moment is one that's going to stick with me as a big moment of this year because the way that they all synced up and they all had their big moments. Daniel Cormier is going with the Doug Rose, and then you got John Anik complimenting it by still calling the action, and what's happening, and then Joe Rogan is of course doing the Joe Rogan. Now, oh my God, everything. It's just the call of that moment was one of the classic calls in the sport.
Yeah, I didn't hear the call because I was there live.
Yeah,
and we're not going in and out, and we just all decided it was kind of like nobody talked. But I'm back there with MMA Elite from my man Luke Thomas, Ariel Hawani was there, Luke's producer Melissa, and we're all linked up. But when she caught with the left hand and dropped her, I'm like, all right, I've seen JJ get dropped before. Okay, she get back up, But when she came with that 2-piece, oh shit, did this just happen? Everybody's like locked in and just going crazy because that was the holy shit moment. That was my first holy shit moment to be in the arena, and the guards going crazy because nobody saw that happen. But shout out to my source at Ronda Rousey's camp. He texted me on Friday when he saw the weigh-ins. He said, "Bruh, you sound just like Ronda did before I was in the hospital with her that Sunday afternoon in Australia." So he kind of tipped me off. And then when it happened, he buzzed. What did I tell you? He's the only person that told me. He said she's feeling her own hype, kind of how Ronda was. Go ahead and Holly. So he saw the signs because he knew from being up close.
Wow.
Crazy moment. I had that whole fight, and obviously the call it was my secondary favorite moment was Demetrius Johnson's mousetrap / mighty armbar, whatever you want to call it.
Submission of the year.
On Ray Borg.
Yes.
Like that's just so like anytime you see something that makes people go into the gym and be like, I gotta practice this, like you know it's something special.
Or if it's not on the video game, UFC 3.
Yeah, absolutely. EA Sports is like, dang it. The animators were like, hell, we got to make this work somehow. Got to do something. But yeah, those are some classic moments right there. Love the pick. Kendrick, did you have one other than that stood out, or was that also your?
I hate to say I'm gonna go for JJ was on the victim. That's why my top covering other than when me and Matt met the week of the whole John Jones press conference, the 200 one. We were there.
Oh, wow.
Me and Matt had met the day before. We was like, man, it's kind of distance. We're gonna see something crazy. Little did we know, later that day, this fool here is quiet. And, like, I'm just mad because I told Matt exactly what I was going to ask him. Matt's the only one that knew. I said, I'm going to ask this fool, how does he feel to lose $10 million like a dumbass? And this dude in front of me. So, John, how does it feel to know that you're not going to get that money back? Because he had faked like he was crying. And then when I do ask him about that money, that's when the real tears came.
Anyways. Yeah.
But I digress. But you don't get no better than the upset of the year.
Yeah,
at the Garden of all places, like it was a setup. Like we gotta go when they go to the Garden. We all gotta go. I keep telling Matt he gotta go. I went to 205 and 217. It's like one of those things. Like you hear people talk about Madison Square Garden, MSG. You gotta go. Like you really do. Some things you gotta be in there because last year I do on Wednesday or whenever Thursday when McGregor came with the chair on out at Eddie Alvarez. I knew that we gonna have a lit ass fight. This week you didn't know. It didn't feel like that big of a fight. And then fight night, you walked up in there, shit going down tonight. As soon as you walked through the gate at the Garden, through the tunnel, I was like, I knew something was going to go. I told Matt, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but something going to happen. I texted him. I didn't think my JJ going to get knocked the hell out, but
I mean,
but I can tell by the atmosphere.
that was just that whole atmosphere in that night. 3 title fights, 3 title changes. Crazy atmosphere. Hell of a moment. Congrats to and
female fighter of the year, Dan. That's my female fighter of the year.
And then to see Justin Gaethje post that video of him just bawling his eyes out, crying, being so happy for it.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. So Dan, I did ask you one more question to come prepared for. Let's hear it, man. I want to know what was one thing in 2017 that did happen that you don't want to see happen again.
I'm trying to. This one came to me immediately, but I'm still having trouble trying to word it. So I'll do my best, and perhaps you guys can hit home the pitch for me. But what I don't want to see happen. We do need big fights. We do need money and attention from all sides of the sport. It's good for everybody. But I don't want to see another constructed title fight that A, puts the division on hold, and B, is clear that from before to after that the guy wasn't going to stay and defend it, and that was GSP versus Bisping. And that's not taking anything away. I think it was super impressive what GSP did coming out of that long of 4 years. His coaches thought he was going to lose the fight, from skill. Then he had the colitis and all these things, and that's super impressive. I don't want to take away from that, but the whole putting divisions on hold and whatnot, I don't want to see that again.
Crazy that he could just come in. He pretty much basically just hit the reset button on the whole division because we're kind of like back to where we should be in a way. Like Bisping kind of came in and then like shook up the world on short notice, and then he did the whole thing about fighting Dan Henderson again, and just it was like things were going in the wrong direction, I think. And then like, okay, let's call it, throw out the bat signal in the air, bring in GSP to fix everything, and then here we are with Whitaker and Rockhold coming up soon. I think it ended up working out a good way, but I agree with you there. I'm mad at like no more interim titles. Let's figure out a way to not do that again. Is a good one as well to kind of tag on to that. For me in this year, one thing I don't want to see again, I don't want to see the old heads versus the young phenoms. I don't want to see those matchups. I don't want to see BJ Penn versus Yair Rodriguez. I don't want to see Derek Brunson against Machida. I don't want to see those fights, especially when it's guys that are knockout artists fighting an old guy who's still just trying to hang on.
Anders versus Machida's coming up. Oh no.
It's like, come on, man. Exactly. Like, what are you doing here?
What we say on the show, Matt? What is this? Who game is this? Young man's game.
It is. It's a young man's game. It's a young man's game. I mean, those types of matchups, like, it doesn't make sense. You have guys that are trying to get towards the title, and then you have old guys that are legends that are just, trying to get another fight in. So why are you going to make those two come to a head? It's just the results aren't very pretty every time.
Yep.
Kendrick, did you have one that you don't want to see happen, or anything that kind of was like left a sour taste in your mouth this year?
Just really, I can't perplex because, like, I just hope we have some better fan control. Stop booing people for winning fights just because motherfuckers don't get knocked out or bleed to death.
Hashtag MMA fans.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's a competitive fight. Or then, like, people, it's like, for the sport to grow, like, we're growing our game as journalists and reporters. Fans have to go. Like, I saw people on Twitter talking about Holly Holm was telling Southpark what she was when she was doing the last night. If I recall, I've said this multiple times. Before she kicked my girl Ronda, she said, BAM! So that's just how she fight. Like, some people have quirks. She has quirks. And then they were saying that, like, people on, like, Kenny Florian, the good guy, good at what he does. He said that Holly doesn't look nervous how she paces back and forth before the fights. That's how she fights. She did the same thing before she kicked Ronda in the head. So it's like, people need to let the sport evolve in the right way without putting too much, well, this is the way people always do it, or this is the way you're supposed to win, or whatever. It's like, it gets annoying. And that, to me, that sets the sport back, because people, like, they don't use common sense. They look at it more as an entertainment factor. This is not WWE.
Hey, quick note on the Holly key eyes. I haven't had time to listen to too much podcast this week, but one of my favorite things about the lead up for this event was everybody do their Holly Holm impersonations one way or another, and I just want to almost string them all together. They've all been great. So great job on that key eye, Kendrick.
Oh, I just did that.
Absolutely, he nailed it, man. Nailed it. Yeah, that's a good one though. It's a good one. Anything in 2018 coming up, looking into your head, anything that you want to see happen in this upcoming year?
I'm going to steal one from my man, Brian Schoonover. He said on our after party edition we recorded last night. I'm going to steal his, and that is a title defense from Conor McGregor.
It's
That's
sad.
What I want to see.
It's very sad that you have to put that as like your thing you want to see. Like that should be like,
But Dave, why do people? I understand why it's a big deal, but why don't people look at it like the reason UFC, like you know how Dana keeps saying it's the most profitable year. If there's no Mayweather McGregor, they can't say that. So it's like it wasn't like it was for a bullshit reason.
Right?
He went to fight Paulie Malignaggi just to say he was a boxer. You know.
Yeah.
Right?
He's the second biggest all-time combat sporting event of all time behind Mayweather Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
He had a good reason to be away.
Like it's still amazing to me that fight actually happened.
Yeah, that was amazing.
It's still amazing that it happened. I mean, I literally you guys know because I've shown it on my Facebook many times. I literally photoshopped an image of them. It would look like at a presser like 3 years ago. Like just on I was bored, and then that came true. It actually happened. Like
it surely was there.
Crazy, man.
Now that's something we don't need to see no more. Nobody I don't need to see no boxers cross over to MMA.
Oh,
No
it's gonna
MMA.
happen,
Now, that's
It's
one thing
gonna
I don't need to see no more.
That's gonna
Stay with your chosen profession. Be good at it. Get your belts and make your money.
I'm mad at it, but we'll see. One thing, I have a couple of technical things I want to see in 2018. I do want to see, more regulations around weight cutting. Obviously, my biggest pet peeve in this sport.
Be a champion for the cause.
Yeah, man. I want to see more regulations around that. I don't want to see title fights. Just simple stuff. I want champions to defend their belt, so I'm there with you, Dan. I want to listen. I could care less what Conor McGregor does if he drops the title. I don't care if he wants to go be a boxer from here on out. Just stop calling yourself the lightweight champion.
Yeah.
And then I'll support everything you do from there on out. Awesome. But if you start talking 100%. About wanting to fight Paulie Malignaggi and you're still holding on to that title, bro, I'm not with that.
Yep.
I'm not with that.
I hear you.
So
hey, can I add on just one thing real quick to the weight cut regulations, which kind of sounds like an open-ended, hopeless kind of topic to a lot of people. But I will say, to give credit where credit's due, when they pulled out, what was the Japanese fighter Hirota, when they pulled him and they pulled that fight. Bravo to them for that. And I want to see, not only do I want to see more of that, the UFC and the regulators pulling more fighters who are unfit to compete, but also I want to see more corners throwing in towels and not letting the ref make the decision while their fighter absorbs brain damage for a fight that they clearly have no chance of winning.
Saw that in Ryzen last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Ryzen as well. Ryzen honey dicked me last night, man.
I had to catch up.
Did you watch it last night?
I read results.
Okay, so Ryzen was like, "Oh, we're gonna take an intermission, and it's like 3 a.m. here." I'm like, "All right," or 3:30 a.m. I'm like, "Okay." It said it was gonna be a 30-minute intermission. Little do I know, I'm still here an hour and a half later, wondering when the next fight started. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" It's 6 o'clock in the morning, damn near. They haven't got It's just like they put in this ridiculously long intermission, expecting people to hang around, and of course, a lot of us degenerate MMA fans were up on Twitter still tweeting about it.
Right.
Degenerate.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. But I think that's everything we touched on, right? For our year in review. I think we hit on it. Damn good year for the sport. Not only just MMA, but for combat sports. Boxing had a hell of a year. Incredible fights throughout the year. I think for the people that questioned if boxing was dead, I think they got that answer resoundingly. It's very much not dead, very much alive. They put on incredible fights this year, incredible matchups on the horizon, and well, looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. We'll get you out of here, Dan, man. Thanks for joining us on the final episode of 2017 the podcast. Always enjoy your insight. Always enjoy your breakdowns. At the time, man. You enjoy your New Year's Eve celebration. Live it up there in Vegas, man. You got big plans for tonight or what?
Dude, I'm probably just gonna be an old man. I feel bad. Like there's some people down on the strip. Mutual friend of ours, Jim Edwards, and some other people. But they lock it down like Alcatraz. It gets crazy down there, man. Bunch of savages. So I'm gonna be an old man, stay at home. But thank you guys for having me on, man. Again, it means a lot. Listener of the show, fan of the show. So it's a double honor to be on the show. I wish you guys the best. Happy, safe New Year. I know this won't be the last time we'll be getting together in person or on a podcast. So thanks again.
For sure, man. We look forward to having you on multiple times in the coming year.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Hey, easy Kendrick, easy Matt.
To break down the action-packed UFC 219 card, we bring in a friend of the show, one of the best pound-for-pound trainers in the MMA game today, Mr. Steve Warman Wright. What's up, Warman? How you doing? Thanks for joining us yet again.
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
What do you think about all this craziness with the fight, man? That we got people talking about what Holly did and what she shouldn't have done. To me, I think she fought the fight that she had to fight to make it interesting. The only thing she kind of could have done different is diversify her strikes. Because if she fought the regular way she's been fighting, she gets knocked out. If she did take chances, she gets knocked out. So it's like, what do you want her to do?
Well, I personally thought that she fought to the best of her ability, and I think sometimes when you don't win, people feel that that's, a slight against you, like they say, oh, if you could have done this thing, you could have done this better, things would have been different. Now, clearly it's a fight, so, maybe they fight 10 times and the head kick lands in 2 of those fights. But in truth, I thought that she came out. I thought that she moved well. I thought that most importantly in that first round, she got her lead hand going. But I thought that the moment she committed to throwing more than one punch, I thought that there was a huge advantage in the counter game by Cyborg, in particular because Cyborg did such a good job of putting in the rounds with Clarissa Shields. And when you do that, when you get someone that's, probably one of the most skilled, talented boxers on the planet, if you can get a read on your counter with them, or if they have success and then tell you what they're having success with, it helps you so much on fight night. So I thought that Cyborg showed every aspect of mixed martial arts. As far as on the feet goes, I thought she landed some good knees in the clinch. I thought she did a good job with her counter rights. I thought she did a good job when she led, when she threw her offense first. I love the body kick and the inside leg kick. I felt like she had complete offense, whereas I thought that after the first moments of the fight, I thought that Holly Holm got away from the jab hook that she was playing with, and she really relied on the high kick and the straight left and trying to run Cyborg into shots. But whenever she did that and she threw the shot, Cyborg would counter with the right hand. So I was a little surprised by some of the scorecards. I thought that I had it, 5-0 for Cyborg, but I'd have no problem with 4-1. But some people were saying that they had Holly winning, and I didn't see that. At all. I can't think of 3 rounds. So
no
way.
I didn't see people saying that she won. I've seen I have people arguing with me right now on Twitter saying that she didn't win 2 rounds. I'm like, well, 2 of the actual judges gave her 2 rounds, and the one judge that gave her 1 actually gave her the round that I thought Cyborg may have won. Like the judge that gave her the 1 round gave her the second round, and I thought Holly clearly won the first round. And the second round was closer, but I still gave it to Holly. But
I had a 50-45, but you could give her the second round.
Yeah, I'm going to rewatch that too tomorrow, and just to make sure I wasn't having some, maybe it's Cyborg is actually being tested here type thing. I don't know. But
yeah.
Steve?
Well, I mean, 1 and 2 were close. I just liked the power shots of Cyborg. More in round 1 by a little bit, and more in round 2 by a little more, and then 3 through 5 were not close for me. Those were pretty clear. But I saw MMA fighter Felice Herrick. She said that she had Holly Holm winning 3 rounds,
I saw that.
and then that's when I was just thinking to myself, man, what was that third round like? That means that 3, 4, and 5 that you had to have given her one of those rounds, and she was almost stopped at the end of round 3, so it couldn't have been that one. And then round 5, she was just in. And all the numbers, and I usually don't go off the numbers too much, but in this situation, all of the numbers supported a clear victory in every round for Cyborg. But it is what it is, and I thought that it was a good fight. I really thought that in the main card, the women had the more exciting fights, between Calvia and Esparza, and then the main event. I thought that there was more, and I thought that Calvillo Esparza was going to be tactical. I thought that wouldn't be a good banger, but that fight was entertaining. So I thought that they stole the show. Not to put a gender on it, but I thought that they put a good show on, and I really liked that sub by Hooker.
2 things. I think Calvillo won. I don't see how you. What did it's like? Do you get the round for attempted submission? What did Carla do in that second round to win that fight? I still don't see how she won that fight. She controlled the distance for the last. That she still the round in because she controlled the distance the last minute and she went for a sub. That's all she did. She didn't outstrike her. She didn't beat up on the ground when she got her down.
I guess this is where you and I probably disagree. I thought that she really got a feel for landing the right hand and the movement, and I thought that Kavia, I mentioned it on Twitter, I wondered if maybe weight cut came into play because I thought her volume went way down, and even when she fought in the last one, when she fought Calderwood, and that had some close moments too, I didn't feel like she ever got tired for one moment in that fight, and when it got to the ground, her grappling was so aggressive. I thought she did what she does in round 1. I thought the reason why she was going to win this was because of what happened in round 1. She got a good takedown, and when she's on top, she stays on top. But the surprise of the fight was, the reversal that Esparza got with 10 seconds left in the round, because I didn't think that Kavia would lose it. She's so good at sticking to the back and holding those dominant positions. But I thought in round two her volume went way down, and I thought that it was clear that Esparza's got a weird stand up game where she like moves around, and she'll throw like some power shots, and then she'll move again. But she never like hangs out. She never works behind a jab. Like you almost never see her score jabs. They're like more kind of range finders, and then she explodes into exchange. But I thought that Kavia wasn't striking as much offensively in the round. And then towards the end of the round, there was also 2 takedowns. They didn't result into any offense, anything significant. I think Kavia did a really good job of she does kind of like a balling up. Like when she goes to the ground, she'll get her butterflies in, and she'll roll in a way that she can rock your base through. She did it really well, when my fighter, Montana Stewart, fought her. It's just one of those things that I noticed that if you get her in those spots, she does a good job of rolling out of things and not staying on the ground. So that's why I liked her work and Esparza's work in round 2. Still very, very impressive considering how much she had lost round 1. And then round 3 I thought was clear for Esparza. I thought she landed significant shots throughout. Yeah.
I had a 1 and 2 for Satan in round 3 for Carla, but yeah, like I said, it definitely was a close fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that rematch for sure.
That's a good
for
fight.
sure. And I think that it's not a bad thing that she lost it because she had started to show a few of the holes when you looked at the fight with Calderwood, that she's not as developed on the feet as we were thinking, and what happens when you get a JoJo in front of you and JoJo doesn't go down? What happens when you get, some of the girls who have that ability to score strikes consistently? Because there were moments where literally, and she's not big at all, where Esparza bit down in her mouthpiece and just exchanged with the bigger Kavia and landed well in those spots. So it's nothing at the end of the world that maybe she, gets a step back fight. Maybe she gets, someone like a Justine Kish or something like that and then moves forward again. But it's the kind of fight she needed to have. I thought the UFC moved her well this year, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
My undercover MVP tonight was my man Neil Magny. He blocked out the noise, did what he had to do, wasn't trying to entertain no crowd, but he got that dub extra crispy. In a very technical fight, he did what he had to do. He didn't get in there, man, I'm trying to entertain the fans. More people should be like him. He had a game plan. He could care if people thought it was boring. He got that hand raised, on to the next one. I don't know why more fighters don't fight like he do. Do what you do, execute your game plan, get your hand raised, and go on about your business.
Well, I have a question to both of you. I thought that fight was going into it. I thought Magny was the favorite. I had to find out that he was not the favorite. Someone posted that Condit was the favorite going in. For me, Condit, and if I remember correctly, I think Condit's lost, I want to say 4 of his last 5 or 3 of his last 4. So the only win being, Thiago Alves, and Alves, of course, hasn't been elite in a while. Injuries have slowed him, and he tried that thing at 155. But, I was surprised when he came in as the favorite. He hasn't fought in 2 years. And even though Magny's coming off a loss, Magny's still fighting. He's still consistent. So I thought that he was going to win it the whole way. I did think that Condit was super rusty in round 1. Like, he didn't get going in round 1. And then I thought round 2 went to Magny because Magny got the top position. And then round 3, I thought Condit had some moments late. But when they went to the scorecards and 2 of them were 30-27, I was like, oh, they had it for Magny even wider than I thought. So I was just curious, what was your thoughts on the odds for that and why they would be that way?
I think it's just crowd and favoritism. A lot of people have they hold Carlos Condit in high regard, like the Diaz brothers. And I'm not saying that Carlos Condit, isn't worth that regard, but I'm just saying, like, he's got that sort of like cult following behind him. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people on Twitter, even though he clearly lost every round that fight, we're tweeting out silly things like, 127 to 25 for Carlos Condit. Just being silly.
Mm-hmm.
People always do that. And, I'm not saying, like, Carlos isn't worth it. I mean, he's a cool dude. He's always been real respectful, and he's had some wars in the cage, and people love him for that. So I think that definitely affects the betting lines coming in, especially when you got a quiet guy like Magny who's not out there. He's got some fans, but he's not actually, killing it on the microphone by any means, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he goes out there and does work, but I can definitely see why Condit was favored coming in, despite the long layoff. and despite the recent losses, but is what it is. But I mean, Magny's also been the guy that he gets there, starts getting towards the top of the ladder, and then he falters a little bit. So I think that could have also played into it as well.
For sure. And people get on fighters when they do that, and it doesn't always work your way when you do it. When Johnny fought Magny, you can make the argument that we won 3 rounds with the exception of 2 sub-attempts at the end of the first and the end of the third. But most people were kind of against Johnny because they thought he was conservative because, he didn't really pass. He stayed in that pot. So sometimes that can work against you on the scorecards, being that way. But I guess if your goal is to be the best fighter in the world, you got to get your hands raised. That's the most important thing. And I cracked the joke on Twitter that Magny just became the most popular 170 in the UFC because more people are going to want to fight him than and I think the joke I said was all the people who said no to Kamaru Usman are all going to say yes to Neil Magny. So Colby Covington, who has avoided Magny, avoided Usman, is now going to be like, I'll fight Magny. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's going to be someone that I'm going to fight in this gap, that's who it's going to be. And the reason why they want to do it is because he's not a great athlete. He's just a guy who puts together good fight performances. And that's why I think people will take that chance with him. And so he can pretty much pick what he wants. He should be naming his price. If I was Magny, I know my stock went way up because I know all those guys are going to be trying to, Colby and all of them are going to be trying to fight me. I'm like, hey, I'll fight you. I'll get half your purse though, because I have value and you don't, because you're avoiding fights and I'm not. So.
But do you think Magny's equivalent of a big stage fighter, of like a person that, man, you look in the training room, you're not gonna think he's the one that's got 13 wins. I think they said 13 wins since like 2013 or something. In the Octagon. He's the one that you wouldn't tell by looking in the training cage, but when the lights are on, that he's the guy that's signed. Because I know a lot of people. I get tired of when I hear people hype up these people. They come to UFC and they don't show. It's like, what were you looking at, or were you lying to me? Because you say this guy's a beast, or he's got a way better ground game than such and such, or she's got a way better hands than such and such, and then when it comes to showtime, they don't show. I want the person that show when the lights are on. That's just me.
I guess it's, for him, it's, one step forward, one step backwards right now. So clearly you're correct. Tonight he showed up, but the last time we saw him, it didn't go his way. He got taken down, passed, and then submitted very, very quickly.
Yeah.
He has his moments for sure, but it's just I think it's the consistency that puts the guys, like your RDAs in that kind of situation. But I will say this: he doesn't lose a lot of them in a row. I'd rather go 1-1 than go 0-3 at some period of time. Yeah. So, but he's a steady guy that's going to be in the top 15. And in the top 10, will he get to fight for a title one day? It just kind of depends on who's the champion, because I would have never thought that Carlos would have got to fight Robbie, but, especially after beating Alves, I didn't think that was a big win. Alves wasn't even ranked, and yet he got the opportunity. So who knows what Woodley will ask for. Clearly Woodley wants to make money with the least amount of risk. He's been hoping to get one of those kind of DS type fights, but those guys know how that fight's going to go, so they're not interested in him. So, it's going to be weird. 170 is just such a weird, division right now.
Yeah, it's in a weird spot, but I think one division that's also kind of in a weird spot at the very tip top is 155 now. What happened tonight with Khabib absolutely dominating Edson. I mean, I tweeted this out a little bit before we started recording tonight. I was like, what if Conor comes out and starts saying, I want Khabib next? Like, is the UFC going to ignore Tony Ferguson's interim title? I think they would. Because it's almost like Conor does whatever he wants, and the UFC just kind of follows along.
But to understand, though, the UFC, the reason they keep talking about they had the most popular year ever, that's all because of Conor. So
yeah.
So it's kind of like he's that one in a million type dude. He's that outlier, like LeVar Ball is in marketing. He's the outlier of the UFC.
Yeah. So it is. Tony's gonna come up with a phantom injury when they start talking about that fight. I mean, this is all hypothetical. I mean, it's like, who knows if Conor's ever coming back for one. But
he's gonna come back. He's got 2 fights.
Man,
no,
for me, if Conor McGregor comes back and calls off Khabib, he's the man. He is the man if he does that, because that is the last person I think that he would call back. Like it would just surprise me so much if he said, "I want to fight Khabib," after what he sees and the way Khabib fights
in Russia,
because you can have some mental, like you can convince yourself a whole lot of stuff in some fights. So in the first Diaz fight, after that one's over with, he was like, "Hey, I just got tired," or "I got submitted on the ground," or like I was doing good before it. And I remember Dan was like, he took his loss like a man, and all this other kind of stuff that you say for the guy that you love. And then the next fight came out and fought better, and then he fought better than we thought when he went against Mayweather, even though it was tactical by Mayweather. It was still, he did better than all these other boxers and yada, yada, yada. And all that, you look at all that push, and I go, okay, you can make an argument for him doing something well in those fights. But the way, the transitional wrestling and the way that, the reckless way that Khabib comes after you, it's just clearly he could hit Khabib in between there. But then Khabib's just going to fall on his legs. And the moment he gets there, the way that he transitions from body lock to single leg to double leg, that transition, when he gets you down, he beats guys up. His ground and pound on the ground is like nothing else. Like he can beat you up in guard. He can beat you up in half guard. He can pull him up. No matter where it is, he's not worried about you up kicking him. He's just absolutely smashing guys. So between what happened to Barboza, who fought absolutely wonderful. Barboza fought to the best of his ability. He didn't quit for one moment. He could have stayed on the ground at the end of the fight. He could have got stopped at any time. He got up every single time, and he did something crazy, spinning hard, trying to get a KO. He fought to the very last moment. And, I mean, I was proud to watch him. I was like, man, who cares if the other guy's better? There is something for leaving it in the cage. If you coach fighters and if you are a fighter, that sort of thing matters just in our kind of communities. And anytime it's appreciated outside of it, it's really, really cool, but it doesn't really happen that often. He really did leave it in the cage and did everything in his power to win the fight. He just went against a better guy. So if I see that this fight is going to happen before, like, because if I'm Conor, I'm going to let Ferg and Khabib fight. I'm going to go ahead and see where that goes. Maybe it reveals a few more holes, something like that. Yeah. I would wait that out. That's just me personally. I'd wait that out. But
I'm not mad at that at all.
I think Tony can beat Khabib because he makes adjustments. One thing that UFC fighters, male or female, don't do is make in-fight adjustments. They lean on these teams, the Greg Jacksons of the world, Jason Perillo's, great coaches in there, right? But how come fighters don't make those adjustments? Like, he made an adjustment on our boy Kevin, friend of the show. Shout out Kevin. He might be coming on January 8th. Just a heads up to y'all, Slip and Dip listeners. But when he made that adjustment to Kevin in the first round, that I can see him doing something like that and changing the game on Khabib because, Khabib's relentless. He put on a good show and all that. But if you really break down technically, he has a lot of holes in his game. I mean, like, he comes at a straight line. We see him get caught before, like he got caught against Michael Johnson. And if somebody play the "you hit me, I hit you" game, can he really survive that?
He usually doesn't play that game. He only plays it long enough to get to your legs. You notice it tonight. Early, there was some desperation after, because really,
he got tagged twice
really
with that left.
It was almost a mirror image of the Johnson fight. Like it came out, and Johnson, I remember, was scoring well, cracking him with shots, and Khabib was just pressuring and looking for moments. The only thing I'd say is Khabib scored more offense against Edson early than he did against Johnson early. For Johnson, he almost had no success on the feet. He had a lot of success on the ground. But because of the way, Edson moves and because he kicks more, it gave up a lot of those, kind of shots. But Edson came out blasting that inside leg. He didn't give up the outside leg because he didn't want to get his kick caught. He was blasting the inside leg. He still ripped the switch kick to the body. He was scoring in bunches. He was just, doing a good job of scoring offense, but he kept moving backwards the whole time. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way you're going to be able to do this for 15 minutes. Like, it's so hard. And he defended the first few takedowns, but as soon as he kind of got too high on that whizzer, And then all of a sudden, or the overhook, I should say, wasn't the wizard. He got too high on the overhook trying to defend, and the next thing you know, Khabib sweeps. He goes down to the mat, and he's done. He's done being on the feet for the rest of the round.
Yeah,
yeah. So, but at the very end of the fight, I'm telling you, he was in a worse spot than that, and I'm like, he's got every reason. I'm looking at him. I'm like, he's trying everything in his power to get out of this. He is not going to sit there. And I was proud to watch it, and he fought well. So Khabib's a different monster. He's an exceptional fighter. His top position grappling is it's only the only thing that's better than it is his top position punishment, the way he lands offense. So if Conor McGregor looked at tonight's fight and says that's the guy to fight, I think Conor's the man for that. Especially a guy who's doesn't need to fight anymore. Like, for real doesn't need to fight anymore. Only does it for, I wouldn't even say does it for money. If he comes back, he does it because his identity is in being a fighter. But we'll see where this goes. I'm excited no matter what decision's made next. But business-wise, no way I'm getting in there. I'm going to go ahead and see what happens when Ferguson fights him to see what holes are revealed.
Do you think I assume you're leaning towards Khabib if him and Ferguson fight?
I would go with Khabib. Khabib is in that special category that I have for Anderson Silva in his prime. Just as this Aldo in his prime. I'm gonna pick them until I see them beaten. So he sits there in my mind. He sits there in that way. Not that he can't lose, but he sits there. And by the way, I would pick both of those two right now over Conor McGregor.
I agree with you there. I think Tony, people don't realize how Tony's a way better athlete than people give him credit for. And I think the more he plays on that, he lays those traps, and sooner or later, somebody fall in that trap and he make you pay, and that's how he keeps winning.
I mean, if you watch one of his open workouts, man, you see how
that dude's
good
a
of
freak.
an athlete he is.
He does some. I think Khabib is an overrated athlete. I think because he's great at what he does, people overrate him as an athlete. He's just great at what he does.
Though, I think people underrate Khabib in this area, and that's his striking, because he tagged Edson a couple of times.
He's got power, but he doesn't got striking. There's a difference.
But it's like the difference between Khabib and Damian Maia. Damian Maia is an incredible grappler, but he can't strike worth a damn. Khabib has decent enough striking to make you respect his striking, and then he's gonna close the distance and shoot down.
True that, but I can see somebody like Tony Ferguson basically like, you know what, I'm gonna do what you're not supposed to do, because he seems to do that and get away with it. I'm gonna go Mexican style. Haul off. We're gonna do this in a phone booth and force that ugly fight. Yeah. And fans want to see it, but it won't be no technical. But that's what he'll have to do to win that fight. And then I can see him getting him into that.
Yeah, I think that you said it well. And the way that, because he pressures and because you're so worried about his takedowns, he can punch you a lot more. Yeah. And it's something that I realized when I was started working with Johnny and we were moving up the ranks to win the title. I realized I could do whatever I want with him as far as canvas goes, because when Johnny got to me, he had the wrestling background, but he had used it successfully in the UFC. So I knew that other teams had to come in and they had their game plan for his wrestling. As a coach, I could just teach the striking part. And then, of course, when it came time to the title fight, he looked like $1 million. So for Khabib and the way Esparza, I think, is the perfect example. Esparza has a weird striking style, but because you're worried about wrestling and because you're worried about her, changing levels and so on, she can just move you around, and then throw offense and then move. It's you're only getting hit, not because it's any kind of technical masterpiece, but because you're worried about other tools and you're following her around, and she just kind of lures you into kind of her traps. I think with Khabib, he's pressuring so much, and his chin, for the most part, it's good until it's not good. He just runs into each offense, but because he's pressuring and you're moving backwards the whole time, when he starts throwing offense, you don't have any defense because your legs aren't underneath you. You're just eating those shots up. So for Barboza, who got hit, a decent amount of times, most of it was birthed from the fact that he just kept going backwards so much, and then he started to take him. So he has a stand-up game. It's not that he's great at stand-up, but he has a stand-up game. So I think that he will have success against anybody that he fights.
Steve, like you said, how Johnny was a good wrestler. We all know that, and then you worked on striking. Why do these fighters get to a certain level and they forget like what their base is? Like we go back to how that's why GSP is a legend. He stayed with his wrestling, but people like Rampage came in slamming people in the head. Then once he started knocking people out, no, I'm good. I don't have to do that no more. Someone else has done that recently. That Tyron, Big 12 wrestler. Now all he does is want to knock people out. He doesn't use none of his wrestling other than to defend the takedown. Why do people do that? And once they get into MMA, they get to a certain level, they don't basically do what got them there. That's one thing I will give Habib his props. Habib's a wrestler, and he gonna do what he do.
For me, just looking at it, especially depending upon your weight class, you run into a period of time where it doesn't work. So if you're coming up in the game, you can get away with being the best wrestler because a lot of people that are, fighting MMA on the mid-level kind of range, mid to low-level range, you could take those guys down, pass, and beat them up and win easy. When you first get to UFC, those are kind of guys who are tweeners, are kind of on the outside of it. But it only works for so long. It only works for so long because if you let's look at Dillashaw, for example. TJ Dillashaw is one of the best guys at getting up. Like, if you take TJ Dillashaw down, he's like down for like half of a second and he gets up. He's really, really good at getting back to his feet. If you look at the entire 135 division, you almost never see someone sit on top of somebody for the whole round. It's really, really rare because they're so good at mixed martial arts and positions. If you put them on the ground, they get immediately up to their feet. You can't hold those guys down. The fight in Detroit was kind of an anomaly. At 125, if you can't get up from your back at 125, you can't fight for the title in the division. The guys are too good. So when Pettis was, held down by Cejudo, the way their gym plays it, they like to play sweeps more than kind of the stuff you do to get up. Push away with your feet, come up on singles. They play it a little bit different at their gym, and they've had success. But for that particular fighter, he pretty much won in guard. That is such a rarity in 125 because Benavidez doesn't stay on the ground. Johnson doesn't stay on the ground. None of those guys do it. The game's just too evolved there. So GSP stayed his strength, but he was able to do it against the athletes and the fighters that he went against. But as you notice, there's not a lot of guys like that around anymore. They kind of ran their course. It's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot harder for people to hold a wrestling base. So you got to use it, and while you're beating guys at the mid-level, you got to just develop your other skills so that you can use it in sporadic moments, but then you can still win rounds.
How come nobody knows how to close the ring off? Like, as you know, in boxing, that's one thing I was very impressed. I think I can guarantee you, had I talked to Sawboy today, or I've been in the fight, I would have asked her that was the Clarissa Shields effect. But males, they don't do that. Nobody closes off the ring. Like, for instance, Nagano, if he closes off the ring, there's no way he'd lose to anybody. But he doesn't. He gets away with it because he's a freak of an athlete. But how come fighters don't do that, male or female? Or you'll see a fighter do it for like a round and then they just forget how to do it. It's like nobody knows how to close off a ring or octagon the whole fight, like from beginning to end.
Well, for me, and it's probably one of the most misunderstood things about fighting just in general, even in history. Like sometimes the old timers will talk about how the old time guys were good at cutting off the ring, and now the new guys don't do it. I've watched boxing from every era. It's not something that is good in total for the whole combat sports. There are a few people here and there that can figure it out, but for the most part, as a whole, it is something that people struggle with quite significantly, just in combat sports in general. In MMA, the cage is huge. It really is really big. And when people don't have the comfort that they're looking for, you'll see sometimes where like people look like they're running away in the cage. They're not afraid. They're trying to get back to a spot where they're comfortable with striking. And cutting off the cage, I've had moments where I've just trained people and kind of worked it, but it is really hard when you don't have a hard corner. So the best example I can think of is Mirko Cro Cop. He's fighting a little bit here. Mirko, when he was the killer and people thought he was one of the best fighters in the world, if not the best fighter in the world, when he came on the scene, he was able to cut people off and score head kicks and run them into offense and defend well because it was so different. And as soon as he got into the UFC, after cutting off corners and finding big offense for his whole Pride career, his first UFC fight, he won by KO, but he followed the guy in a circle. And I just told me right away, it's way different. Like, even before I was coaching, I was still fighting at the time when that fight happened. I remember thinking, it's way different. He can't cut people off. So it's harder to do than you think with all that space. So I definitely, don't jump on too many guys about it. But I will say, you just have to understand, what in your offense can cut people off. You can use kicks to cut people off and they go in certain directions. You can jump 3-2. You can, play angles hard. You can do a lot of things to get people to run into a trap. The biggest thing is you just can't follow. And that's what you see mostly in MMA. You see these big circles because everybody's following. Exactly.
Now, I think if Cyborg would have done that, like Cyborg a year ago fighting Holly that way today, could have lost. She didn't fight the way she fought tonight. She fought the old Cyborg way and did that and stalked. I think she could have lost. I think that's how big of a difference it makes.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree there. She's improved greatly so much, and she's still improving all the time. But I agree with you 100%. The old version of her that was all aggression, that version would run into offense, like would run into, but she was such a hulking, strong figure that it didn't matter. So in the one loss that she had, and, when she, not the armbar loss in the beginning of her career, but when she lost to Urena Bars in kickboxing, she ran straight at Urena Bars, and Urena Bars hit her with a teep, and she went down with the first strike of the fight, and the ref missed it. And then she tried to get herself back into it, and then she just kind of got out kickboxed, and then she got a head kick, and then she took another knee that took her down, and she just ran into someone who knew angles and how to strike. And since that moment, she didn't rest in it and be like, okay, well then that's just, I only fight from MMA from here on out. She just, for her to be working, and she was doing some work with shields, and she was taking some shots, and she just kept going. She put in the work to get herself better, and she brought in the bodies to get herself better. So the way she fought tonight, the way she was patient, she was moving aggressive sometimes, but she didn't run into anything crazy. I agree with you, 100% improved. Not even necessarily in cutting off the cage all the time, but just in her steps and closing the distance.
And before we get you out of here, that leads me into, this is a two-part question. What's your favorite fighter in 2017, and who's your favorite fighter? The favorite fights, we kind of got a list. We got the Michael Johnson Gaethje fight, we got the John Jones Cormier 2, Eddie Alvarez Gaethje, and Oliveira Medeiros. Me personally, I'm kind of favorable to the Johnson Gaethje one. I saw it in person. I never seen a person make a fight so effing easy, turn into a nightmare, and take a L just to impress the fans. Michael Johnson. But I can easily see how the Oliveira's Medeiros fight is from an entertainment standpoint, and then Cormier Jones with the superior technical ability. I don't know how you feel about PED. I don't know how you feel about PEDs. Do you think the PEDs allowed that kick to knock Daniel Cormier upside the head? I don't understand how that court go together.
If you're asking me what I say is my favorite, most memorable fight of this year as far as action, crowd response, it would clearly for me be Jones and Cormier, because Cormier, I thought, won round 2. Eddie won round 2 in the first fight, I thought. But the way the action took place, and just the fact that there seemed Jones came out on fire in round 1. I was like, he's landing everything. That's what I felt like when I was watching. I felt like he's landing 98% of his strikes. Yeah. But he came out there and he was landing straight. His jabs, his cross, his body kicks, his teeps, he was moving so fast. And I was like, man, this guy, he not only did he not skip a beat in that break, he's better. That's what I was thinking. And then here comes round 2, and here goes Cormier, again, wrestling base, and he's coming out with a combination low kick game. And I'm like, man, this guy's just amazing, just really, really letting him go. And then round 3, you get that back and forth, and then it matters a lot to me. Having a definitive stoppage means something to me, and he caught him with the head kick, was able to put him away afterwards. I hated the after fight. I hated that they, put the camera on Cormier, and, it's dealing with loss is tough. Yeah, dealing with loss is tough. But I never, when someone's kind of concussed and you put I've never been a fan of that. Yeah, it's that one. As far as how I feel, that one was good. Now again, there were a lot of fun fights, and you're right with Gaethje, Gaethje and anybody is always a good answer.
Right.
But yeah, that would be the one that I say stands out for me. Are you saying just MMA or boxing too?
Yeah, let's hear the boxing one. Do you have a favorite
Okay.
for boxing this year?
Yes.
Comes to
Favorite
mind?
boxing one for me. Oh, it's clear. It's clear. I don't even have to hesitate here. Is Joshua Klitschko,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's so important to me. Again, I bring up the stoppage thing, and say what you want about the stoppage, but here you have the guy who's supposed to be the future, supposed to be the future of the sport. He looks the part, like he's, good looking, got, Mike Tyson muscles on a 6'6" body, and goes out there, looks great, scores it down, thinking everything's going to go as expected, gets tired. Here comes Klitschko. I thought Klitschko, I was going to knock him out for sure, because I was like, he's dead tired, and Klitschko looks ready to go. And then Klitschko takes over the middle portions of the fight, knocks him down, and then all of a sudden, as Klitschko looks to go, it's like he caught a second win, and then he's back in the fight, and he's winning the fight, and then he gets the stoppage in the 11th. The reason why that matters to me is because if you're going to become the heavyweight champion of the world, the guy that we all look at, that's what the fight should look like. If you're the heavyweight champion, it should have that kind of feel to it. It should have that. It's something that should be taken. And I feel like, if I look at the history, I feel like Floyd Patterson, took it, from Johansson when he won it, and I felt like when Sonny Liston stopped Patterson, he took it. It was something that was, and then Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali took it from him. Like it's just, you are this guy and you get stopped and you lose this. That means something to me in the heavyweight division. So when I saw that against two guys who you would consider, the better guys, of course, Tyson Fury has an argument, but
what
these
about
are the
Deontay?
guys that you look at. So, Wilder, I'm not saying that he doesn't have an argument, but I think that he has priced himself out of some of the opportunities. And
Sure.
Same as, and I understand it. What's his name? Let's Go Champ Briggs. He prices himself out of opportunities. He could have been done fought for the title.
He can't shit and Briggs and shit out. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, he put himself in position to fight for it, and then they hit him up, and they'll be like, okay, we'll give you $2 million. And he'll be like, $7 million, knowing damn well he's not bringing one ticket sale to England or whatever. And then he won't get used, and he say, oh, they're avoiding me. I'm like, dude, you're pricing yourself out. So, but that one
Steve
really stands out for me.
The boxing behind the scenes.
Hey, they've been saying that in MMA about Nate Diaz.
But tell me.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing with Deontay though, Steve. Like, you see him fight, people are like he's gonna be a major underdog. Like, if I'm going to that fight and it's in Vegas, I'm putting 300 on Deontay. Because
I think it'd be a good fight.
Because you let him get Joshua hurt, he ain't getting off the hook. Guarantee you that.
Yeah, and I think that me personally, I think Joshua was I think that's a good fight. I lean towards Joshua. I think he showed me more tools, and most importantly, he's beaten more guys. And I saw that it's agreed that he's going to fight Parker. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see from the best guys in the world. Parker's got a title. Go get that. Go take that title. You can't have nobody eats. If there's a championship in doubt, nobody eats. That's how I feel about this. You can't just leave that up for doubt. You've got to make sure nobody's walking has the opportunity to say that they're better than you. And I think that if I look at the guys who Joshua is fighting, I'm more impressed by those fights so far. But again, Wilder will show me something if he beats Ortiz, and they rescheduled that. And when he beat Stavern the first time, I thought that was the way he did it. I thought that was awesome. So, sorry, I got myself off track. You can't be talking boxing. But anyways.
You think that was KO of the year, Stavern and Wilder too? You think that was the KO of the year? No.
It was pretty vicious.
KO of the year? Ooh, I mean, that one's up there. I like, what is it? I always mess up his first name. Is it David Benavidez? The guy, it was it's like a 5-punch combo. I like that one. I like the Inoue body shot. He's got 2 of them this year. So I'm a big Inoue fan. Yeah, that one's up there. But as
What about
far
the
as like
Chocolito one? The
you
dude one
know,
that put the dude put on Chocolito.
oh yeah, Sicker,
I forget his name. That was
Pet.
yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
that
good
was
one, too.
definitely brutal. That was brutal. So those all pop up. I don't know if I have one that I feel I really like that Benavides one. If I'm thinking of it, I hope I'm saying his first name right. But I really like that one. That kid's really really good. And then did you ask me fighter of the year?
Fight of the year for your MMA before we get you out of here.
Okay.
Can you give us a female and a male since you have a different perspective? You see both because I think Cynthia would have clinched it easily for female had she won the day, but since she didn't, I think you got to give it to Rose because she stopped the unbeatable JJ and she stopped a top 5 opponent in Karate Hottie.
Yeah, Watterson was never really top 5 for me personally, but she was up there. She's solid, but she's kind of going off of the Paige Van Zant win, and I don't think that would qualify somebody for top 5 from me. Just off of the resumes of the girls who they have here. Not that that's a good or bad victory. It's still a solid win, but I'm saying that doesn't wow me in that way. I think I'd still go. I think I'll go Cyborg. I think I go for Cyborg for a female fighter of the year. I like. There was quite the win streak that when she beat. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that she's going against 35ers and not 45ers. So I understand that. Yeah, I guess I'm fine with Rose, but I like Cyborg for the women. I'll go ahead and stay with Cyborg. Plus she. Yeah, I'll go there. And then as far as the men go for fighter of the year, I actually struggle with this one.
There's
because
a lot to choose from this year. There's a lot. There's a lot of good ones.
Well, the main thing is I always usually want to choose a champion, and the champions usually just fight twice, and if I want somebody that fights 3 times, that's going to be the better, representation of dominance in a year. So, Stipe only fought twice.
What about DJ?
Yeah, so DJ only fought twice.
Yeah.
So it's an odd year for DJ.
DJ for me had one of the most memorable moments of the year, though.
The mouse trap.
Oh yeah.
Talk about it,
Yeah. Submission of the year is a wrap. Like I'll hear no argument. Like if nobody can say anything, I don't care that there was a single crab and a Boston crab earlier this year. No. He fought a guy who was considered the number 1 contender in the world, and he pretty much did a video game move on him. So and you can't do that in a video game. They have to add that to the video game next year. That's how great that was.
Right.
So I mean, DJ's always a good answer. And I mean, they weren't drop dead performances, but you definitely got to say Woodley as a good answer. I think I'm always going to go for a champion whenever I pick fighter of the year. So like a RDA would be out for me. So my
RDA's out.
No, he's still a good fighter.
Dude, he's out.
Okay. Well, let me give you a list because I went through the list of fighters that at least I found that went at minimum 3 that had at minimum 3 wins. Most of them are 3-0 this year. So out of these names, I guess pick out of these names. So it had Santiago Ponzinibbio was 3-0, Paul Felder was 3-0, Paulo Costa was 3-0 with 3 TKOs and 3 knockouts. Yep. James Vick, of course, your boy 3-0. Darren Till was 3-0. Sunshine was 3-0, but those are all decisions. RDA 3-0. Dominic Reyes was only 2-0. I mean, I put him on there, but he had 2 impressive finishes.
Matt got his girl Felice on there. He makes Felice cry. Felice don't like seeing Matt come around.
We'll get to that in a second. Let me finish.
Who was Till's first win?
Of
those 3, I only remember 2. I thought he fought twice.
He fought 3 times this year. I'm pulling it right up here real quick.
Because he's
on computer. Come on, computer. Yesin Ayari.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in May. That was in May at one of the fight night cards.
Yeah, that was on the card with us in Sweden. That was when I was there for that one. Yeah. He missed weight by 7 pounds that time, so he can't win. He missed weight.
Okay, that's fair.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's an awesome fighter. He is great.
Then the last couple ones I had Bilal Muhammad 3 decisions, Volkan Ozdemir with 3-0 as well.
Cool.
And one name that a lot of people will not think of is Li Jiangliang 3-0.
Oh yeah, very tough, very tough. If I pick a guy that's not a champion, I'd go Ozdemir because he's fighting for the title.
Yeah, he's right on for it.
So he went from taking a short notice UFC fight in January to fighting for the UFC title in January. That's pretty impressive. So if I'm picking a guy that doesn't have a strap, I will go with him. I'm glad you remembered him. I did not remember him off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So I would go with him. And then if I were to pick a champion, I can't go with Holloway. I want to, but if he fought if he had beaten,
he fought the same guy twice.
Yeah, if he had beaten having a mental lapse here. Who is he supposed to fight in Detroit?
Who is he supposed to fight?
Yes.
Max Holloway. Who is he supposed to fight? Dang, I'm
talking about Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie Edgar. That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
Kendrick here to say today.
Frankie, he would have got it from me. Yeah, he would have got it from me. So, but yeah, I guess that would be. I'll go Demetrius Johnson. 2 stoppages.
All right, I'm not mad at it.
And Steve, what do you think about this? The Megan Anderson. Like someone she might fight Cyborg because were you with me at that fight, Matt? When we talked to her, we talked to her. I didn't really know who she was. I heard her name. I didn't know who she was. I know she's that big. First of all, she's a big lady.
Oh yeah, she's
and
huge.
then she's like, yeah, I'm feeling the future of the division. I'll be ready to fight Chris Cyborg in 2 years. So we go for you fighting 2 years, and they won't try to set the fight. The first was originally set for 2 months after that. So now they're talking about she'll fight Cyborg early next year. That's still like 6 months after her talking like that. So how you go from saying you're gonna fight the best lady in the world, you'll be ready in 2 years, so you're gonna fight her in 6 months. But I'm supposed to believe that you're gonna really win or make a kill account of yourself.
People are supposed to forget that interview. Supposed to forget that.
Yeah. Well, for me, I thought
that's what she told us directly. This is not no sources.
For sure.
This is what she told me.
Yeah.
What I think about with Megan, and I've talked to Megan a couple of times. She's first of all, she looked every bit. The first time I saw her, I was coaching Jan Yu Fry, and we were on the same card. Jan Yu Fry was fighting McCarthy, and then she was making her debut. And as soon as I saw her, she's 6 feet tall, and she's got this muscular frame. I was like, oh, she's winning by KO for sure. And she went out there, and she got submitted by Cynthia Dubois. And I was like, okay, I was dead wrong there. I didn't see that coming at all. She was super tentative and so on. But in the way that we talk about, how Cyborg committed herself to getting better, she didn't go home. She went to the work with Krause and them in Kansas City, moved out there full time. And the performances that she's put on since then have been really, really good. So she ended up winning the interim title, and then they gave her the strap full. And she was supposed to fight Cyborg, and she was down to fight Cyborg. I think she had about a month. And then the next thing you know, her visa stuff came into play because, it's just deciding to relocate. Not always the easiest thing to do, if you're, from out of the country to this country. So she now if they do Perth, of course, that's where she's from, so they could do that easy. And Cyborg was down to do it, and that's a real quick turnaround. I don't know if that fight will be made, but I do like the idea of having a plan for Cyborg because there's no division. It's pretty much a sideshow of the UFC. Until they bring in a roster, that's what it would be. It's almost exhibition fights. They've got to have a division. They've got to have a rankings. They've got to have a map for where there's gonna, what's gonna happen. So, but they haven't done one fight. They haven't done one fight that's not for the title at 145. So, that's we'll see what happens. But Megan definitely looks the part, and she's long. But man, just Cyborg's skill is the thing that makes me say it's going to be a tough night for her.
I think she gets knocked out second round.
Yeah, I think that fight's going to look extremely different from what we saw tonight. But we'll see what happens, man. Hey, Steve, man, I appreciate the time coming on right after UFC 219, man. It's 2:30 a.m. local time here in the DF Dub, man. We need to wrap this thing up. Don't want to keep you all night long, but
hey, no problem. I appreciate you being on, and I definitely want to give a shout out because I feel bad if I wouldn't say this. As far as boxers of the year, I wanted to give a shout out to Amanda Serrano because I think that she fought 5 times this year and she had 4 stoppages. and that's really, really hard to do in women's boxing. So as much as there's the Shields fans because she's up and coming, and of course I'm a big fan of
Michaela. You like Michaela Mayer?
Female combat sports. I'm a fan of female combat sports in general, so I follow the game pretty heavily. I think that what Serrano did was really, really amazing to get 4 stoppages and fight 5 times. So definitely shout out to Amanda Serrano. I would feel weird if I didn't mention her. Also, I'm a big Katie Taylor fan too, so shout out to Katie Taylor.
What weight class is Katie Taylor in?
She boxed in the Olympics at around 130. I think that's where she.
So you think her and Michaela Mayer? You think that'd be a great fight?
They were the same weight class in the Olympics. I don't know if they'll make it, if they'll happen, but it'd be fun to see. But right now, Katie's skill set is better suited for being a pro, whereas Michaela is exchanging more, but she still wins off the lead hand. So that would be the biggest difference for people who want to know. The difference between a seasoned pro and a seasoned amateur is how developed your power shots are, not how developed your jab hand is. Your jab hand is something that you'll see in the amateurs at a high level for a long time. But when you get to the pros, those guys have so many tools with their power shots, and they can land them like light shots, or they can land them like power. They can go to the body. So it's just a little bit different.
Shout out to
3 times, 4 times.
For sure, and she'll be great too. She'll be great. I've held mitts for her. I've worked with her in the past. She's really, really quick, and she moves well, and she's got she'll bite down in exchange with you if she has to. So Michaela Mayer's money.
take away from me. How good
is. Oh yeah, it was boxing's for me. It was their best year, probably since before 2000 for me personally.
What about 2004, 2005? You did it dirty. I forgot what year that was. It was 2004, 2005. They had a pretty golden year.
Yeah, you're talking about that small gap where the Cold War ended. I remember that, where because the Cold War between airmen, it just lasted for like a year, but then it went right back, right?
Yeah.
but yeah, that was a good one. But I thought boxing, the only thing I would have liked more was more Aerosmiths, because I'm all about Aerosmiths. But as far as
he come back in January. I might go to the gym next week, Steve.
Oh yeah, he's legit. But yeah, man, boxing, you're dead. You really called it well, Matthew. It was their best year in a long time, and I think it is a product of, as much as people jump on him, because of what happened with the PBC and big time boxers not fighting big time competitions. The ratings went away, and people started to kind of have problems. And then all of a sudden, guys started to realize these checks aren't going to come if we don't fight each other. So then, of course, that forced a Thurman and Garcia to fight, and it wasn't the greatest fight, but it's what we wanted to see. We want to see the best in the world. Roman Gonzalez consistently fought the best guys in the world until it didn't happen anymore. Lomachenko was my fighter of the year. He had 3 fights, 3 stoppages. Whoever it is, they're going to fight. The best guys are fighting each other. So that's why I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Crawford going into the next year. And boxing's on point right now. They just got to stay with it.
And to cap it all off, we had the freak show of all freak shows when we had Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. So merging the two worlds together.
Yeah, it's the highest paid freak show of all time. So we will see. We'll see what happens moving forward. And I don't rule out Conor trying boxing again against Malignaggi. I don't rule that out.
Somebody threw that tweet out there right after the fight. They're like, you know what? I am going to fight after Khabib did what he did tonight. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to 2018. I think there'll be a lot of interesting things that come forward. But hell, looking back on 2017, man, gotta love it. Gotta love it, man.
See, we gotta get you and Judo Thunder on together before y'all fight in Boston in the next week or two.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll definitely have him. So God bless you. Have a good night, man. I love being on the show.
Absolutely, man. Look forward to you having on next time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, peace.
Thanks.
That is Steve Warman Wright spitting that fire as always. Great way to close the year and close the show and everything, man. Yeah. 35 episodes. They said we wouldn't get to 5.
35. Hey, I've got it on the screen right now, 34. I forgot to change the graphic. But yes, man, strong year. for the show. We're growing, picking up steam. Had 4 fighters that fought tonight on previous.
For 3,
episodes.
we were for 3, right?
So, hey,
Man,
1 for 3. I mean,
we're here talking about the prelim, guys. First of all, like my boy Dion say, when we call, you need to take the call. You might lose. We ain't gonna throw no names out there.
Any fighters listening right now, I'm not making that connotation whatsoever. That is 100% Kendrick. So listen,
but you know the stat's true though. This is all. but I digress. I still don't get these guys on the prelims. That I guess that's why they're fighting the prelims because they don't got an identity. Like
no, it's not.
They don't
necessarily all that.
I just the I don't want to say the fight IQ. I don't even want to say that. It just seems like it lets you know who's legit and who's not. It has nothing to do with actual skills most of the time. It's like that mental thing. Like, for example, your girl that she made cry Felice. So whenever she start going to sports psychiatrist or whatever, she's got a mental game point. Also, she winning because it's part of the game. People don't understand that. People think it's all about throwing 1-2s, head kicks, submission game. The mental game is work. But I love me some JJ. We about to see how good her mental game is because you can come back after what I saw at 217. You a legit champion, but it takes a mental person to come through the adversity and come back.
For sure. The mental edge is so important, especially in combat sports. I mean, again, we saw an example of that tonight. Even though he didn't get the win, but he still showed that mental fortitude to stay in the fight. And I'm talking about Edson Barbosa. That's what Steve was talking about earlier. And I said the exact same thing when he was tweeting it out too. Listen, I respect that. The pressure that Khabib puts on people would break most people.
Yeah.
But Edson got up and he said, you know what? I'm still in the fight and I'm still trying to win. I'm going to try to throw this spinning back heel kick and I'm going to end up missing and landing on my ass. But hell, at least I'm not giving up. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people
I agree with 100% what y'all saying, but I'm a results guy. So now we pop up people for trying hard. That's all he did. He tried hard.
But my point there.
Like, I can respect. I see what you're saying. Like, 9 men out of 10. Somebody said he should tap to takedowns.
Yeah, I mean,
did you see it on Twitter? I saw it 3 times.
There was a point. I tweeted out even. There was a point where he just put it like he grabbed the fence and he was just like grabbing it, like he wasn't trying to use it to like pull himself up or to stop Khabib from moving and getting a better position. He was just putting his hand on the fence to be like, help me, please. Help me, Jesus. And then, he did what he did. He ended up getting out of there, but, it is what it is. I agree, though. The mental edge is a huge thing. And
we're about to see about my girl Cynthia. Hopefully she can come. Hey, Cynthia, come back, man. A tough loss. I feel your pain. You had a hell of a 2017, girl. Keep your head up. I know you'll come back strong. I felt bad for her. People were making a big deal because she was upset. What's she supposed to do? This thing was I won't call her nobody, but we didn't know who the hell she was this time last year, and she's could see the title shot in front of her. What's she supposed to do? Hey, it's cool. I'll be alright. Like, what you want a person to do? I mean, and I even put in work. She can't make a name of herself in less than a year, and for a female that's not selling sex, that's hard to do, and she did it.
She wants a little. I mean, people want a little bit more sportsmanship. Take the loss.
I don't get that though. So we're talking about basketball, football. We're talking about people that fight for a living.
We're still talking about professional fighters. We're not talking about bar brawls.
But she didn't go off on Carla though. She went off the people who screwed her, the judges.
That's still showing disrespect to Carla though. Because Carla put a good fight on her. She did. She clearly won the last round. Second round, kind of questionable. Who knows? Either way. I thought it was going to be a split decision. I was really surprised it was unanimous.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was. I thought we were going to get it's 29, 28.
Exactly.
Calvillo. I did think that.
When he
had that written out. Let's say unanimous decision. I thought she had won right away. Matter of fact, I'm that fool that Hooters, dog.
I actually disagree with you on that. When he said all 3 judges, I knew Carla was winning.
Oh, because she clearly won third.
Yeah.
But I think she isn't. Cynthia clearly won round 1.
It's a good fight either way. It's a good fight. It's enjoyable. But yeah, I agree. I think she'll bounce back. Have a big 2018. Hell, it's gonna be hard to top 2017. Like I said, tonight she lost the fighter of the year for me. By not sealing it up. She would have been like 1-4-0.
Do you have to have a belt?
No, you don't have to have a belt for me. Like for me, listen, when it comes to fight of the year, I look at performances. I look at, did you finish fights? How were you? Like Paulo Costa, man, that dude's 3-0, 3 TKOs, 3 KO TKOs.
But look who he's fighting now.
Doesn't matter.
It
like,
do. Competition means something.
Hey, like you said,
you fight
like
3 bums.
Say, if it was that easy, everybody be doing it.
Yeah, but he said, let me fight 3 bums.
On our screen here, I've got. Look, I'm gonna put it up for the people watching.
I kind of want to lean towards towards Speedway. You gotta have a belt.
Here's a list of our people right here that went at least 3-0. I do have 1-2-0 on there, and Dominic Reyes, because the dude's a beast. He's gonna be a problem this year in 2018.
Well, before we get, I can go and tell you, we both forgot. We both kind of put our fight of the year. You got Cormier too, right? Cormier and Jones too, right?
Yeah.
Fight of the year, my male fight of the year. I like looking at it, it's not even on the list. I'm gonna go with DJ. Not only because he got the belt, we went from he could possibly be the best pound for pound fighter to now he's the undisputed pound for pound #1, and he created, as Steve said, he created moves that you got to name that not even on the video game. Yeah, so that right there, I that gives the edge for me. I give it to DJ. After I kind of like made I've been doing all my going back and forth in my head, but looking from that perspective. And the fact that he's clearly the #1 fighter in the world, but he was not when beginning of 2017. People weren't. He was in the mix, but what like now it's universal. Who's the best fighter? Who's the best MMA fighter in the world? Demetrius Johnson. For sure. So that elevates him.
Yeah, and this is all stuff we will talk with Dan. Like if you're listening to this now, the edit's going to seem a little weird because we're putting this at the end of the show. We're talking to Dan first thing in the morning, and we're coming at you right now, right after the fights. But anyways, I digress. You know where we're at with all this stuff by now, people. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. We're 35 episodes in, man. Thank you, everyone that's followed the show, that's subscribed on YouTube, that's subscribed on Spreaker, subscribed on iTunes as well. We're growing the show. We're trying to get as many people to listen and give us some feedback as well. So, if
good or bad, we got thick skin over here.
I mean, we got thick skin. If you don't like us, you don't like us. I mean, if you don't like us, you're probably not listening right now. But if you are, please share it. Share it with your friends and family, your MMA buddies, your boxing buddies. Anybody that likes seeing people getting punched in the face for money. Yeah, share it. Share it around. Thank you to all the guests that we've had so far. Oh my God.
Mighty Mouse, Deontay Wilder, Cynthia Calvillo.
The fights, man. The fighters.
Uriah Faber, Steve Warman Wright,
former champions. Big names.
John Anning, Neil Magny.
Oh my goodness, trainers, Derek James. Oh my goodness, journalists, everybody. Thank you so much, Lance Pugmire, Stephen Thompson, man, Trevor Whitman. I'm just going down the list. of the show right now. Juliana Pena, Angelo Reyes. Shout out to Angelo.
Aaron Usman.
Multiple
shout out, Michaela. I'm hollering at you, girl. Please come back on. We love you. 4-0.
Chael Sonnen, Dean Thomas. Man. Oh my goodness, the list goes on. Dewey Cooper, shout out. Paulie Malignaggi.
Shout out to Danny Austin. That's why I vetoed that trade. Now all of a sudden y'all win it, but we're not going to talk about that.
Hey, I still beat you that week. Take this L, son. Kevin Lee, of course, as well. Man, we've had so many guests, and it's only going to get Shauna Dobson, Louis Smoker, Bilal Muhammad. Oh my goodness, Mark De La Rosa, Montana De La Rosa. Woo! Tisha and Raquel, James Vick. Oh my God, the list goes on.
Karate Hottie.
Say Dwayne Ludwig already?
Karate Hottie.
Karate Hottie, man. It's just, you know what?
And a tease, I'm working on getting Kevin on the show next Sunday.
Shout out, Fansided. Yeah, man, absolutely. You know what? We gotta. I did say we were gonna get MMA Jim on. Mr. Jim Edwards last episode. I completely forgot. We'll get him on first thing in 2018. I promise. And
for free to boo.
Absolutely. Hey, we're getting out of here. I promise. Thank you to everybody. Listen, I love it. I love doing this. It's fun. It's fun following these guys and hearing their stories on a more personal level outside of the PR lights, the PR cameras. We try to bring the real deal out of some of these guys, man. Some of them don't want to give it to us, but we try to work it in there. I love it. Love doing this, man. It's fun.
Peace 2017, 2018. Slip and dip coming at you.